I was doing foundation wrong for years, you all. I'm 45. I've been doing makeup professionally for about 20 years. I started as a freelance artist, then I own a makeup brand and I create makeup products. I work in product development, but I've always struggled with how to get my foundation to look flawless. And in the last few years, I feel like, yes, I finally nailed it. So I'm gonna tell you what I did that changed everything to give me the most flawless looking foundation base. First thing I did is I chose the right hydrating ingredients for my skin type. Now, when it comes to hydration for the skin, it is so important for your foundation, obviously. If your skin is dry or it's dehydrated in any way, whatever foundation you put on top, it's gonna look like crap. It's just not gonna be flawless. That's just what it is. It always starts with skincare, but you wanna choose the right ingredients for your skin type. So I have my notes here. I have 3 skin types. So the first one is dry skin. This is what I am. I'm combo to dry. If you have dry skin, these are the ingredients you wanna look for in your moisturizers, toners, things like that. You wanna look for ceramides, squalane, face oils like rose hip oil, almond oil, or even white truffle oil, which I'll talk about in a second. It's amazing. It's a powerhouse ingredient. If you have dehydrated skin, so I also have this. I don't drink enough water. If you were dehydrated and you're a coffee addict like me, here's what you wanna look for is hyaluronic acid. That's gonna draw water to the skin, but make sure when you use that your face is slightly damp. Otherwise, it can have the opposite effect. So if you use hyaluronic acid, just make sure your face, you just wash it, don't dry it off. Let that hyaluronic acid bind with that water and really just hydrate the skin. You also wanna look for polyglutamic acid. I'll put that on the screen, or panthenol. Those are some amazing ingredients for dehydrated skin. If you have oily skin, you still have to stay hydrated. Don't skip the moisturizer, don't skip the hydration. You still need it, even if you're oily, but you wanna stick to gel-based formulas because those are more lightweight, they're not as heavy. You wanna look for some ingredients, maybe like glycerin, aloe, or even niacinamide. I've talked so much about niacinamide. It is such a great ingredient to have for everyone. I think everyone should have something with niacinamide. Helps with clearing up the skin, getting the pores cleaned out, helping with pigmentation, all of that. I am a huge fan of niacinamide, but especially for oily skin, it really helps clean out those pores and keep that oil from clogging them and causing breakouts and things like that. So look at your ingredients, you all, in all of your skincare. Not one skincare is going to work for everyone. You want to try to customize it for something that works specifically for you. Tip number 2 is I started layering my skincare effectively and in the right order. So after you wash your face, which is what I just did, I then do a toner. And the one I'm using right now is the D'Alba one. It's their first spray serum. This is a Korean brand I've really been enjoying lately. They are sponsoring iVideo today, which I'm so excited about because this is a Korean skincare brand. You guys know I love Korean skincare. They are light years ahead in far of their formulation, the type of raw materials and ingredients that they use in their skincare. I just think it's phenomenal. The key ingredient in D'Alba's brand is white truffle oil. And I looked up the benefits of white truffle oil because I like to research anything that has a unique ingredient in there. And this is what I found. White truffle oil is rich in fatty acids, which for me, having dry skin, is amazing for hydration, locks in the moisture, it nourishes the skin. It's also high in antioxidants, so it helps with wrinkle, skin damage, prevents premature aging, helps protect against free radicals. I have my notes here because I did my research. It boosts collagen production. It also is enriched in vitamin C and B complex. Like, this ingredient is a powerhouse, and that's why they use it throughout their brand, is because it has so many benefits to it. It also has phenols and flavonoids, you all, which helps with hyperpigmentation. It fades dark spots and uneven texture. This is my research from Google. This is not even from their site, you all. This is not marketing pitch at all. It's research I did myself. So I really have been enjoying the brand. I've seen some great difference in my skin as far as the hyperpigmentation. I don't know if you guys can see here. I'm gonna show you. I'm in the bathroom. This is not fancy lighting. Here, I'll show you guys. Let me turn it around. See, I'm just standing by my window with natural light, and I want you guys to see up close. Look at my skin. It's really good. I've got like one little breakout right here, but do you see how my skin now, it's not so inflamed? Like, the redness has gone down. Usually I have a lot of redness in here. I've really been seeing results from this, and I don't know if it's the white truffle oil or not, but the products for me have been working amazing. I don't know if, I mean, like, look at my skin, you guys. This is not filtered, no fancy lighting. Like, look at that. I am shocked by how amazing this has been working. So I'm a huge fan. So what I start with is their toner spray. This has really helped with hydration and radiant skin. Now, I've got my hair done and everything, so I'm not gonna spray it directly on my face. You can, obviously. I'm just gonna take a big fluffy brush and spray a couple sprays on that. And then because my forehead gets more dry, what I've been doing is putting it on my forehead and then around the sides of my face. But in the center of my face where I tend to get a little bit oily, I'm just gonna skip it for now because I'm gonna use this after I do my makeup as well. And I've been using that to kind of rehydrate the skin and get rid of any cakey appearance. So I love that. And then after you do your toner, we're gonna do a serum. And the serum I love by D'Alba is their White Truffle First Oil Capsule Serum. This is such a lightweight serum oil. So if you have dry skin, I wish you guys could reach through the camera and feel that. I don't know if you can see that texture. It has a very lightweight lightweight serum fill. It's not oily. It just, oh my gosh, you guys, it's so luxurious feeling. It's so lightweight, very hydrating. Like it just feels beautiful on the skin. I take whatever's left. I put a little bit on my hand. So I love this so much. I think out of their whole line, this is my favorite, but I gotta show you their moisturizer, guys. Look at this moisturizer. So their white truffle double serum and cream. I'll use this more at night, but I wanna show you guys too, even though it's the daytime. Look at this packaging. Is this not the most unique thing? I'm telling you, Korea is just, they're so ahead on everything. The packaging comes with this little scoop on top, which I think is so cool, but it has a serum too. So if you want to, you know, skip this or use both, or you can mix the two together, you can scoop it out. And I wanna show you guys the texture. This is kind of a jelly serum, and then you've got the moisturizer here. So sometimes what I'll do, instead of a moisturizer in the morning, I'll use just the serum side with that gel-like formula because it's very lightweight. And then at night I'll use the cream, or I'll mix both of them together. So that's just how I do it. But look at the texture of that. It's not greasy at all. It's very hydrating. It smells so good. It's very light. It doesn't break me out. It doesn't make me get too greasy or heavy. It's just very lightweight and it feels luxurious. In the textures, I really enjoy their formulas a lot. I think it's a beautiful brand. It's probably my favorite skincare brand I have tried this year. So I'm very excited to keep using their products. So far, I've really seen some great results, and I've been using this for about 3 months or so. So I've had kind of enough time. I've used other products from them in the past to really just see a difference, but I'm telling you, like, look at my skin. Look at my skin, you guys. It's better, right? So I will put all the information in the description box if you guys want to try out this brand. I highly recommend it. If you try anything from this brand, please get the white truffle oil serum. So beautiful, so luxurious. And then my other favorite is the double serum and cream. I'm telling you guys, so good. Tip number 3 is I switched to thin viscosity foundation formulas. Now I talk about viscosity of foundations a lot on this channel, and it's because it's so important. A lot of people don't talk about it. I have 2 viscosities here. So whenever I test foundations, the first thing I do is I put a drop on my hand and I tilt it straight up like this. If that foundation is gliding down, that's a thin, or this one's a moderately thin viscosity because it's flowing down. This foundation is just staying put. It's not moving at all. So that's a thicker formula. Now, as I've gotten older, I changed to a thin viscosity formula because it looks more like skin. It doesn't sit on top of the skin looking thick, cakey, and not like skin. So that's why I keep going for thin viscosity. Now, thick viscosities doesn't mean that you can't use them. I use them very sporadically, just in the center of my face. But if I put it all over my face, something this thick, it's gonna create a thick layer on the skin and just not blend in and look flawless. So I like to take a thin viscosity like this. I take the Anissa Pinnacle foundation brush. You guys know it's my favorite. And what I'll do is I'll put a drop on and then I'll buff it into the skin like this. And do you see how it's giving me coverage? I try to look for high pigmentation, thin viscosity formulas. That's my magic combo because it's gonna give me the coverage that I need without having to apply so much product on there. So I can do a really thin layer and it look okay. And then I really work this into the skin, cover the nose. Look at that. Do you see how it evened out my skin? But let me get up close to the camera. It still looks like skin. That's the magic. Tip number 4 is I started mixing and customizing my foundations so they worked exactly for my skin type and color. Now, mixing foundations has completely transformed my foundation routine. I do it all the time, and I think a lot of people are afraid to do it because they don't know what to mix or they feel like it's gonna take extra time. It's really fast and easy. Sometimes I'll mix 2 different colors to get the perfect match because sometimes straight out of the bottle, it just may not match me perfectly. But also I like to mix 2 different finishes. So I put down the NARS Sheer Glow. It's a nice dewy foundation all over the face, but because I live in a humid environment, in the center of my face can get a little bit oily, and that's where I come in with that matte foundation. It's a little bit thicker viscosity because I also need extra coverage. Like, do you see how I have a little bit of discoloration here under my eyes, a little bit of redness here because I just put down 1 coat. So then I'll go with the second coat of a different formula, a matte foundation, to mattify the center of my face while the rest of it is nice and dewy. So I put a bit on my hand. This is the Milani Conceal and Perfect. It's a thicker viscosity. I only apply it in the center of my face, and I use a sponge. You have to use a sponge. So I pick it up on the sponge like this. I just dab it in and I put a dot right there in the center of my face. And then I very sparingly will use it to put under the eyes, around the nose. This is my second layer of foundation. This is gonna mattify the skin. So it's gonna set the foundation I put down. It's gonna give me extra coverage, and it's just gonna help the foundation last a little bit longer, especially where I get oily. So here's what my face looks like. Do you see how it's nice and dewy out here, but the center of my face is more mattified because I used a matte foundation here, dewy all over the face. So that's a great way to mix foundation foundations. You can also mix colors. You can mix foundation with the oil. There's so many things you can do with mixing. So don't be afraid to play around and use 2 different types of foundations to get exactly what you need. Tip number 5 is I pair the right tool with the right foundation formula. So going back to viscosity, I know I keep talking about it, you all, but to figure out what tool to apply your foundation is crucial. This took me a long time to figure out, you all. If you have a thick viscosity like this one, you need to pair it with a sponge. If I try to apply this with a brush, it's so thick, and when it's going to sit on top of the brush, and when I go to buff it, it's going to stick, it's going to grab to the skin, it's going to give me a patchy appearance. So sometimes when people say, oh, I hate how this foundation looks, it's usually, a lot of times it's how you're applying it versus the foundation itself. Now, if you have a thin viscosity one like this one, where it's dripping down the hand, then I like using a brush instead of a sponge because this is going to help it really buff into the skin. I find if it's really thin and I apply it with a sponge, the sponge soaks up all the formula. It gives me too sheer of a coverage, or it'll give me a patchy appearance because most of the product is in the sponge. So pick your tools wisely. And for me, I like to pair it with the right viscosity to give me the effect that I need. Tip number 6, exfoliate is so important. Exfoliate properly. Now I talk a lot about exfoliation in all of my skincare videos, you guys, because it's so important. But when it comes to makeup, especially your foundation, the number one thing I see when people are on Reddit or online like, oh, my foundation looks cakey or it's separating, what's the problem? Most of the time when it looks very dry and patchy or there's texture on the skin, it's because you're not exfoliating. So I use 2 different exfoliants. I'll use a physical exfoliant like a rice powder or something very gentle to scrub the skin, but more often than not, I'm using liquid exfoliant. So anything that has an acid in it, glycolic acid, lactic acid, mandelic acid, even salicylic acid, or BHA would be amazing. So I try to find a toner that has one of those in there, and I use it at least every other day, sometimes every day if my skin is acting up. Again, don't start with that. Start just a couple times a week, get your skin acclimated, and then you can maybe use it every other day. But I swear, you guys, by the exfoliation for me and my skin, it makes a huge difference on my pores being cleared out, my hyperpigmentation goes away. There's so many benefits that it really helps my skin, and that sets the foundation for the foundation so it looks flawless and smooth. Makeup always starts with the skin first. That's the most important part. Whatever you put on top of your skin is just a bonus. Tip number 7 is I learned to back off of my foundation techniques and learn that less is more. Now, I cannot emphasize enough that less is more, you guys, especially when it comes to foundation. The mistakes I've made over the years is that I wanted smooth, flawless skin, so I get a thick, high pigmented foundation, I buff it all over my face. Then throughout the day, it would just look dry and kind of crumbly because I had too much product on my face. So then I started switching to that thin viscosity and doing 1 layer. That's it. I don't need a lot of coverage on the outer part of my face. There's not discoloration and things going on, but the center of my face, I do. So that's why I then go in with that second foundation or a concealer and put it just on the center of my face under my dark circles to kind of counteract that. But I don't do it all over the face because I don't want it to feel like a mess. So less is more. Always start with the lightest, thinnest layer possible, and then take a moment to look in the mirror, figure out, okay, where do I need a little bit of coverage? Let me just spot treat those areas so I don't have so much product all over my face. Tip number 8 is I prep the base with the exact products I need for my skin. Now, prepping the skin before your foundation is so critical as well. I did not know that primer meant so much until I got into my 40s. So years ago, I would just slap foundation on and be like, okay, it is what it is. No, priming and prepping the face is critical to getting your foundation to look smooth. So based on your skin type, you're going to choose different primers. I have 3 different options. So if you have dry skin, I would say get a mattifying primer, something that's going to soak up the oil. I really like the Maybelline Blur Stick on oily days. On days when it's really hot, I'm sweaty and I'm oily, I'll use this. But you can also use loose powder and put this under the foundation. Yes, you can put powder under liquids. I promise it's going to be okay, but you have to do a light layer. So if you're really oily skin, take a loose powder, a sponge, pick up a little bit on that sponge like this. I'm going to scrape off the excess, you all, because I really want, let me show you the sponge, a light amount. See how there's not much on there? And then I'm going to, even though I have my foundation on, I just want to show you, I'm just going to pat it here in the center of my face where it's a little bit oily. And then I'll put my foundation on top, and that's going to really soak up the oil. It's going to help the foundation last longer and not separate throughout the day. So that's for oily skin. If you have dry skin, you're the polar opposite and you need all the hydration you can get, you can actually use a face oil as a primer. If you're really, really dry and parched, put a little bit of oil on your face, buff it all over before you put your foundation on. It's going to hydrate it. It's going to help that foundation glide more smoothly. Don't be afraid of face oils. I promise you, they are magic. You can even mix it in with your foundation and apply it that way. It gives a beautiful coverage. And then for combination skin, I like silicone-based primers. Most foundations are silicone-based. base. If you need to know if a primer is silicone based, just look to see if it has dimethicone, cyclopentasiloxane. I'll put those words up here on the screen. The one that I'm using right now that I really like is the RMS Beauty one. I like this one a lot. I love the packaging. Look, it pops up. Pretty fancy. But I want to show you, I'm going to show you guys on my hand the difference between hands. Okay, so here's what a primer does. So silicone is a light layered, almost feel like a jelly texture, and it sits on top of the skin. So as we age especially, I like using primers that are silicone based because it creates a layer between your skin and the foundation, creating the smooth canvas. I'm going to show you on my hands, okay? Hopefully, I know I have bright lights in here, so hopefully you all can see it. Okay, this is the primer, and I'm going to rub it on this hand. See it there? I'm not doing anything magical or anything like that. I'm going to let it kind of dry for a minute, and then look at my hands. Can you guys see on the camera? I know I have bright lights. I've got veins and stuff going. This gives me a little bit of coverage, but look at how this skin is dry. Do you see, like, my hands are dehydrated today. They are parched. You see every fine line, you see every vein, all of that stuff going on. Look at this hand. That's the difference. That's what we want to create under our foundation. So when I put foundation on top, it's gonna look smooth, flawless. It's not gonna creep into all these fine lines and have to hide all my veins and discoloration because that primer creates that barrier that gives you that smooth base. Tip number 9 is I adjust for seasonal changes and switch up my foundation formulas. So just like during the different season changes, we change out our moisturizer. We'll use something really heavy and thicker, maybe oil-based in the wintertime when we're really dry. In the summer, we want something light, so we'll use a gel-based moisturizer, things that are very lightweight. Same thing with your foundation. This took me years to realize this, you all. I used to have one foundation, I would wear it all year round, and then at some point in the year, I'd be like, oh, I don't like this foundation anymore. What's going on? It's slipping around, or maybe it looks too dry. It's because your skin changes, so you need to change your foundation with it as well. That's why I always have at least a couple foundations in my toolkit. So during the winter, I will always use a dewy foundation. That's why I love the NARS Sheer Glow. You guys know that. But in the summer, especially where I'm at, it's humid. I need something a little bit more mattifying to help that makeup last longer. So then I'll switch to a matte one. I really like this Faux Wear one. Guys, it's $9 on Amazon. $9. If you buy 2, it's $7.50. Such a good foundation. This is a matte foundation. It looks great on the skin. It's not too thick and cakey. This is the only matte foundation for over 40. I feel like I can wear all over my face and it's no big deal and it looks still good. So switch your foundations based on the season. Maybe go more matte during the summer. During the winter, go a little bit more dewy. Don't be afraid to try different type of finishes in your foundation. Tip number 10 is finishing touches matter. How to blend that foundation in once it's applied on the skin. Now, once you put your foundation down, if you feel like it's still not looking good, maybe it's a little dry, it's a little cakey and thick, you can take a toner spray like the D'Alba First Spray Serum. It's amazing. I love the white truffle oil in this. You can mist it all over your face. Or if you're like me and you just have some dry patches like around my eyes, I tend to get a little bit more dry on my forehead, you can take your beauty blender, your sponge, spray it a few times with that serum spray, make sure it's a little bit damp. And what I like to do is just tap it onto the skin very lightly and really work in that foundation on the skin. And any parts of the face where you feel like it's a little bit dry, you can also roll it in and just make sure that it's not dry or cakey at all. It's just really, you want to work it into the skin. That's the key. We want it to look like skin, not like makeup. And look at that. So beautiful, right? It looks like skin and just very natural. Let me know which one of these tips helps you the most in your foundation routine. Don't forget to subscribe and come back next week for another makeup video.